Good morning, welcome to Smart Men's Business. I'm Anju Barije. Today is the 26th of August, and of course, we are hitting the week towards the end, and of course, the month also coming to the end at the same time. But the bigger picture is we are coming also towards approaching that's the end of the year. And today, as I welcome you, we officially start with the news recap as we go through the day's previous news stories, top stories on Smart 24 TV. And we're going to start with the digitization, the evolution of the public transportation. That's individuals and companies worldwide are undergoing radical changes in their transportation systems. In their transportation systems, in the advances of technology, forgetting the uncomfortable taxis, public transport has been streamlined, professionalized, where there has come the existence of the different online transportation companies. Let's have the details of this report.
With the aim of revolutionizing the public transportation sector using technology-driven solutions, many companies have come up to provide solutions to the long-existing problems involved with public transportation.
Everyone, including if you've not yet noticed, has a pain point, has a transport pain point. For example, let me give you an example. If you really wanted to move, let's say, from one district to another right now, you will realize that you need to quickly go to the bus park or to the old taxi park and jump on a taxi. But you are not sure that you'll find a bus, and you're not even sure that you find available seats or that you will find the seat that you want to sit on, and you don't even know how much that seat costs. What if you find the bus has already filled up? Or let's say you work in an organization and you want to move from to go and do your company errands. You want to go to the field and you've been given per diem. How sure are you that the vehicle you're going to use has been serviced properly and that the driver who is taking you is professional enough?
Public transport in Uganda is largely dominated by taxis and bodabodas, which are characterized by unstable prices, overloading, and according to the 2022 Road Safety Report, bodabodas are the #1 cause of road traffic accidents due to their reckless driving.
Inefficiency in the transport industry. So transport is one of those services that is highly demanded for by everyone at whatever level or status they are in life. At one point, anyone would have a mobility issue. But there are also so many service providers in the market. However, they are also very unprofessional. So it's not even just about the pricing, it's just about the standard of the service.
Online transport companies continue to face a number of challenges, hindering their existence in many African countries, including Uganda, as the TRIPS country director explains.
The very low internet penetration in Uganda. For example, in as much as we think people own smartphones, we only have about 20 million smartphones in a population of over 45 million people. We still struggle with very slow network. We actually have low adaptability. People are still using the internet for just communication. So the low technology adoption in Uganda is still a pain point for solutions like TRIPS to cut through the market and reach as many people as possible. The other challenge that we keep facing is that is the point of trust. So before the internet, in the early inception of internet in Uganda, a number of wrong elements took advantage of the internet and really caused a lot of challenges that people are still healing from. And this is making it extremely difficult for so many other good technologies to actually cut through the market.
Unlike the rudimentary public transport used by majority middle class and lower class Ugandans, these transport companies take an extra mile to put into consideration the customers' experiences while on their journeys.
So we take care of our customers. We collect feedback after each and every trip. So that way we are able to keep a certain standard, a good standard of our services.
So with the customer, we want to make sure that every single customer we serve actually returns back to us. And it's actually been in one of our values that we put the customer first at all costs.
The COVID-19 pandemic was a blessing in disguise for the transport innovators, as many more companies and people embraced online transport networks to ferry essential workers to and from work. And when asked about the future of this innovation in Uganda, he says,
much as COVID had a lot of negative consequences, also COVID brought technology adoption closer by almost 5 years. We saw people start to work from home. We saw people start to rely on the internet and on innovations that are being built on the internet to consume a number of services, and transportation was one of them. So I believe if you asked me in 2019 that how long are we going to take to have a mass adoption of transport networks that are being built online, I would have told you maybe 10 years. But now I can tell you that in the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to see everything that needs transportation being operated online. We have already seen fleet management solutions that bus operators, lorry operators, cargo, logistics, all of them are now relying on digital solutions to be able to handle right from fleet to mechanics to everything. We are now going to see a new shift.
System in particular Uganda, and of course we can talk about evolution and we don't talk about the aspect of digitization. Quite a number of companies are coming up in Uganda regarding online transportation services, and of course it's still in its growing stages, but the future is quite promising. Digitization is part of the global world order. Okay, and now let's cross over to Uganda's sustainable energy plan. That's according to the Uganda Vision 2040. It states that Uganda aspires to have access to clean, affordable, and reliable energy sources to facilitate industrialization for sustainable development. The Prime Minister of Uganda, Robina Nabanja, therefore launched a sustainable energy response plan that's targeting refugee hosting communities. Let's have the details.
While there have been several assessments and some basic data available, the levels of energy access in refugee settlements and the surrounding host communities are not accurately known. Therefore, in a bid to have reliable and affordable energy in the refugee hosting communities, the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robina Nabanja, has launched the Sustainable Energy Response Plan to promote local industries and entrepreneurship.
I take the honor to launch the Sustainable Energy Response Plan. Unlike other plans that relate directly to the targeted beneficiaries, this plan is addressing a situation of wider coverage, and therefore it is directly rotating with the environment, the environmental question we have, and the climate change. Our refugees and host communities have been entirely relying on biomass for cooking and on charcoal for income, you are aware, and bush burning for cultivation.
According to data from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, across the country, charcoal for domestic purpose alone consumes approximately 32% of the average Ugandan's household income. Extending clean energy to refugee settlement is therefore paramount. However, the cost of using energy determines its usage.
Power will be extended, but that power has to be utilized. It has to be consumed because we have to regain the money that we invest. Money that we invest in generation and transmission have a highest bearing on the end user tariff. So if we generate electricity, we don't use it, we will end up with what they call excess power. It's not excess, but it is power which we are not using because we are not plugging in. We are not consuming that power.
Energy, as I said, is fundamental, as was stated here by other people who spoke. We need it for cooking, for example, which is fundamental. We need it for lighting and so forth. most districts, including my district, where we are hosting about 75,000 refugees. The areas where the refugees are, the forest cover is minimal. It's destroyed because they use it for cooking. All finite vegetations have been destroyed, and therefore this attracts now desertification. Slowly the country becomes.
Access to sustainable energy is key to achieving the objectives set out in the National Development Plans and Uganda Vision 2040. Energy sector is a major contributor to government revenues, and its performance impacts the performance of other sectors.
The sustainable energy plan that is aimed to facilitate industrialization to ensure the growth and development of the economy, and of course are largely targeting the refugees settling communities. And now let's cross over to the Uganda National Bureau of Standards report. The Uganda National Bureau of Standards has released a report following the death of 17 people who consumed local gin known as CT5. And of course, the report was presented by David Bahati, the Minister for Trade, the State Minister for Trade, Industry, that's cooperatives, that indicates that the report indicates that manufacturers used methanol instead of ethanol, which is not safe for the human consumption. Let's have the details.
The Uganda National Bureau of Standards has distanced itself from certifying Ruruwiri Company for manufacturing of Citygin 5. According to the report from Bureau that was read by David Bahati, the State Minister for Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, this company used products like methanol that is harmful for human consumption.
Noted that he had certified Rururu fruit wine to produce semi-sweet, still stable pineapple wine. So on that one we had certified it. After undergoing conformity assessment, and that the same Ruruwiri fruit wine had attempted to apply for certification of CT5 pineapple flavored gin, which failed the laboratory analysis for having low alcohol content, which was below 37.5% volume required of a gin as per specifications of the standard. Therefore, Citygin 5 had not yet been certified by UNBS for conformity to the relevant standards, and therefore should not have been in production or for sale to the public.
Local leaders have always asked Parliament to hasten the enactment of the Psychoactive Substance Control Act, the repeal of the Liquor and Enguli Act to regulate alcohol and drug abuse in the country.
Cause of death for the people who consumed the CT5 was due to excessive adulteration of the gin with methanol, which was found to be between 17 to 16,183 times, far more higher than permissible level of 50 milligrams per liter.
Uganda has a lot of local manufacturers of illicit waraji, which is widely supplied all over the country. This locally made waraji sometimes has claimed people's lives.
Other illicit waraji cannot be regulated by UNBS. The UNBS regulation for alcohol products is for the established manufacturers. These that distill and pack. So the challenge that we have found with illicit traders is that they deal and mix the alcohol without following the requirements of the standards. So we've been doing a lot of enforcement around the country to crack down on the illicit traders, those that are making alcohol without following the procedures and the requirements of the UNBS. Yes.
Very, very sad right there. 17 people dying over the consumption of the substandard product. Call them spirits, not an alcohol product. 17 people is quite a big number, so this is quite something very important that you're urged as public out there to be very cautious as you taking these different alcohols, the different spirits. It's very important to ensure that they are certified in terms of quality and of course also other content that is involved. You can imagine these people, instead of using ethanol, they use methanol. That's quite dangerous. If you studied chemistry, you understand how these chemicals of course operate towards the human life in different perspectives. So it's quite a little bit very something to take caution and be very, very careful for those of you who love taking spirits. Okay, now as we wind up the recap, let's talk about the restoration of the Luigi wetland that's from the encroachers. As NEMA is continuing with the joint operation together with the Ministry of Water and Environment to restore the Luigi wetland in Kampala. This follows numerous calls on encroachers in the central region to voluntarily vacate wetlands as authorities move in a forcefully evict for those who are defiant regarding this very matter. The operation has affected more than 200 people operating in both big and small businesses, both operating big and small businesses. Let's have the details of this report.
This exercise is in response to the presidential directive on the restoration of all wetlands and barring members of the public to stop misusing them in a bid to protect the ecosystem. The Luigi wetland has been subjected to encroachment in several ways: cultivation, settlement of both permanent and temporary houses, which were restricting its functions, including flood control and habitat of species, among others.
This wetland is also important because, one, it drains much of north and west, northwestern and this side of Kampala, and also parts of Wakiso district. It is the main collection point of flood waters whenever it rains in and around Kampala. So if this is not protected, then the risk of flooding is very high. And number two, it is also a source of water for the water-stressed Kata corridor in central Uganda, mainly around the areas of Nakaseke and the surrounding areas. They get all their water from here. So if there are activities here that compromise the health and the ability of this wetland to provide its ecosystem services, then that means the impact will not only be felt here, but also in much of central Uganda and many parts around the Lake Victoria basin. So this wetland is very important.
The eviction has affected several businesses, including those waiting for the business license approval to operate and smaller businesses.
We did nothing wrong. We just woke up one morning and we were evicted.
The Public Relations Officer of National Environment Management Authority says there are conditions attached to the usage of such natural resources.
Look at it holistically and not just looking at it from the business perspective. The threat posed by these businesses will affect the entire populace, not just the business owner. If anything, the business owner is limiting the benefits that other people ought to enjoy from this resource. So because we are mandated to protect these resources for the people of Uganda, for mutual benefits for the whole country, we have what we call sustainable development. Yes, there are ways in which you can use such resources. You can apply for, you can apply and then you'll be given a resource use permit, and then depending on the activity you want to do, you'll either be required to submit a project brief or undertake environment and social impact assessment. So these are different levels of approval, and once those are done, all these come with conditions where we stipulate clearly how you ought to use the resource. All approvals come with conditions, so it is not a blank check that you can go and use the resource however you want. There are always conditions attached to it.
Oh, wow. Low-income earners in this area already struggling to make ends meet have been the most affected by this exercise.
That's the eviction of those encroaching the wetland. That's in Lubiji, in Kampala right there. So you can see quite many businesses are being affected as a result of that. But the bigger picture here is to ensure that the wetlands serve their ecosystem, eco-service systems that they're supposed to do. You remember, these are collection centers for quite a number of drainage material that comes from so many parts of the country. So if tampered with, the bigger picture is that the floods will affect, of course, the people settling in those areas that are surrounded the Lubiji area. And of course, I saw a video recently during the Mbale, the floods that were there. And you know, the most interesting thing was that I saw livestock being carried away by the floods. So you can see the business activities and of course affecting the agriculture sector. So imagine we had such a scenario. Just imagining, you know, the wetland is evicted. I mean, so many people have settled on there, and one day heavy rains fall and floods come all over, and those who have their livestock are being affected at the end of the day due to, you know, the desire to invest bigger and bigger. And of course, we have to always look at both sides of the story, both sides of the paper, to weigh the scale. As much as people want to earn a living, there is a bigger picture of the ecosystem and the environment, which also affects the backbone of the country sector, that is agriculture, towards the end of the day. And of course, right now it's exactly 22 minutes past the hour of 7 a.m. We've come to the end of our news recap. But in case you just joined us, just to give a highlight, the evolution, we had something on the evolution of the public transportation. And of course, when we talk evolution, we mean the aspect of digitization. We can't leave that out, as quite a number of online companies, transportation companies are emerging in the country. And there was something to do with the strategy plan. That's the Sustainable Energy Plan. That's 2040 that was launched by the Prime Minister. That's Ruben Anabanja, with its intent to ensure that there is industrialization and also sustainable economic development, but targeting in particular the refugee that's settling communities. Then there was a sad report from the Uganda National Bureau of Standards regarding the consumption of a dangerous spirit, which killed over 17 people due to carelessness by the manufacturers, due to the low content, the substandard production that was put out there, mixing the wrong chemicals that were harmful to the lives of the citizens. And we winded it up with encroachers, with the government evicting those that are encroaching the Lubiji wetland, and of course trying to limit its operations in terms of its services to the ecosystem. And that's it for the recap. Jerome Paul Sonko is right here to take you through the other sections of the program. And I'll be joining you again, still with Jerome Paul Sonko, as we have a weekly discussion of the topics of Smart Means Business on Ground. Yes, we shall be having more highlight regarding the details of those reports on what the public thinks regarding those matters, economic matters that actually affect them. Stick around. Good morning.